A quick thank you to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Data Magnet, Cat Crab Lobster, Duck Machine, Try Again 95, Astray the Dreamer, Mezek, Budic Joel, German Chemist, Casper Arnholtz, and Chaos to Mist. Thank you very much. The Care and Feeding of Humans, Part 21. Humans are known for their superstitions. The most famous superstition is with regards to black cats. Black cats are regarded as highly unlucky. To some humans, to other humans, black cats are regarded as lucky. As with all superstitions, this is obviously nonsense. However, humans cling to this mass of conflicting theories with no basis in fact. The list of superstitions include, but are not limited to, opening weather migration devices indoors, walking under portable elevation devices, even-numbered leaves on Oxalis tetraphylla, dropping grains of sodium chloride, and carrying the semi-distorted portion of a leopardie. These may be regarded as bad luck or good luck by any individual human. Though generally opening weather migration devices under portable elevation devices is universally considered as bad luck amongst humans. It'll be impossible to know in advance exactly what superstitions your humans will harbor. Just humor your humans' idiosyncrasies. If they are upset when a mirror breaks, don't explain that the mirror can be easily repaired or replaced. Just apologize and get a new mirror. Dviak Review of Ontological Species Studies, The Care and Feeding of Humans, Away with Red Shirts, published by Glass and Steel, The Care and Feeding of Humans, Translation Engine 3.14159. After dinner, Zoe stood up. I think we need to have a discussion about our plan tomorrow. Gorif and Alan are going to work on the communication systems. We should probably work on collecting a few samples for the team tomorrow as well, just in case we have to call the expedition off and go back. We won't be empty-handed. I want to also spend a little time observing the quagmire again. I'll take a couple of force field nodes with me and just do some discrete observations, because that thing is bugging me. But tonight, she paused and smiled. Tonight, I think we should try some of those, roasted marshmallows. Yes, Alan shouted, raising his fists into the air. Finally! They broke out the marshmallows, and Teref had long forks for roasting and a small fuel gel pack for fire. Nate seemed to prefer to set his on fire and then wave them about to put the fire out before eating it. Zoe liked to gently roast hers on all sides until there was even brown color. Alan set his on fire like Nate, but then he pulled away the burnt marshmallow layer off and ate that. And then he roasted the interior remains of his marshmallow gently, like Zoe did. He explained that he got the best of both worlds. Teref and Querif tried all the methods, but Neref just stuck to copying Zoe. She wasn't all that comfortable waving a flaming ball of sugar around in the air. The roasted marshmallows tasted just as delicious as Alan had promised, and seemed to give an initial burst of energy that Neref enjoyed. After a while, she and the Rips settled down and they all sat and sang songs. Neref was very sleepy and didn't notice when she drifted off. In the morning, she woke up to Teref making breakfast. I slept through my watch, Neref asked, horrified. Teref grinned a little lopsided. Well, you did. Well, not the humans. They kept watch. They said a lot of sugar can do that to some folks. Zoe, you should have woken me up, Neref said, but looking around, she didn't see Zoe. Where is Zoe? Nate grabbed some breakfast from Teref and stuck a forkful in his mouth. She left earlier, he said, around his food. Wanted to get an early start at observing the quagmire. No, Neref felt a little let down. She knew Zoe wanted to get in and out, and taking her along would have slowed Zoe down. But she felt like Zoe left before she woke up to avoid her. Okay, I guess we all have plenty to do anyway. She pulled on some fresh clothes and scrubbed her face before pulling out a storm data again. Neref, what the hell do you have on? Nate asked. Everyone else looked up in Nate's tone, and Alan made a sound. Neref looked down at her clothes. My clothes? She said. My red shirt? What in the hell were you thinking, putting on a red shirt on an expedition? Nate said. He sounded almost angry. Nate had never been angry before.
Sorry,
Nerv said.
I'll change.
Nate sighed. I'm sorry, Nerv. I shouldn't have jumped on you like that. It's just a silly superstition.
No, it's okay,
Nerv said.
I'll change.
When she was done changing, Nate looked embarrassed. Any luck with those storm charts? He asked. Nerv shook her head. I've gone over them and over them, but I don't see any patterns. Let me try, Nate said. Humans are really good at finding patterns, he said. Nerv handed over the data with a sigh of relief. Don't let Zoe hear you say that, she warned him with a smile. She stood up and looked around. She could collect some samples, nothing big and nothing too far away from the force field. She didn't want to have to drag Nate or Alan away from the jobs to bodyguard her. She took a walk around the perimeter of the ground station, still inside the force field, trying to pick out what kind of samples she would collect. Bubsy followed her until Nerv picked her up and took her to Tariff. Tariff, you're on Bubsy duty again. I'm worried that she might try and run out of the force field when I go through to get a sample. Tariff willingly took Bubsy in his arms. Bubsy girl, do you want a snack? Nerv went back out and circled again. This time she paused near where Nate's antelope had impacted the force field. There were a few glowworms on the ground. Evidently, they'd fallen off when the whatever was dragged the antelope away. Perfect, Nerv thought, and went to get a few collection kits. She came back with the kit and crouched down on the ground, examining the best way to collect one. She opened the plastic case, the bottom in one hand and the lid in the other, tried to gently scoop up the glowworm. It popped like a soap bubble, and Nerv rocked back on her heels, thinking. She pulled out a knife and dug underneath the ground around the glowworm, and then picked up the soil sample. The glowworm balanced on top. She slid the soil sample and worm into the collection box and labeled it with a date and time, and geomarker, as well as notes about the history that they had observed. She picked up the remaining 2 glowworms the same way, and was able to successfully collect them without damaging them. She headed back to the station, and Bubsy came running up to her, making little peeps at her. Nerv picked her up in one hand, samples in the other. How's it going? She asked Nate, while she loaded the samples into the case. A simple job made a little more difficult by Bubsy's interference and headbutting. Nate groaned and rubbed his eyes. I've been looking at this data for hours, and I can't see any patterns. It hasn't been hours, Nerv said. Hardly even 1 hour. Zoe's probably just got to the site about now. Zoe's been there for hours, Nate said, surprised. Nerv looked at him. What do you mean? She left early this morning, Nate said. At Nerv's lack of comprehension, he clarified. Early this morning, when it was still dark. She took some force field notes with her and, Nate looked at Nerv's expression. Hey, don't look like that. She's fine. She sent an update about 40 minutes ago. Nerv set Bubsy down and held out her hand for the data. I'd feel better if you'd go and check on her, Nerv said. Give me the data and we'll stay here with Alan. You go act as a backup for Zoe. Bubsy climbed up Nerv's leg, making sad noises, and Nerv picked her up again. You are a pest, she told Bubsy. Nate stood up and stretched. Zoe told me to keep an eye on you. Here, she's a grown-up and a veteran, and she knows what she's doing. Nerv thought back to her release file and opened her mouth to say something, as Zoe walked in through the door. Yes, I do know what I'm doing, Zoe agreed, and what I'm doing is calling an end to this expedition. Now, Alan and Quirf, do you have the communications up and running yet? Alan shook his head. We've hit a little snag with the power supply. We can hook it up to the main battery, same as we do the lights, but in order to prevent burning out the circuits we put in, we need to trigger the energy source first. The ground station is burnt out, so we can't get it up and running yet. Zoe's face looked grim. We need the station to LanScaper landing area right here and send another shuttle. What's going on, Zoe? Nerv asked. I spent all morning watching the quagmire, Zoe said. I think it uses spores for mind control to bring prey to the make base. It's not one big creature. It's millions of little ones. She looked at the confused faces around her and sighed. Back home, we have these ants. They use spores. and these spores infect these ants and then make the ants leave the colony and climb up a tree and spread more spores. I saw this thing. It looks like a cross between a skunk and a hedgehog. It started eating Nate's antelope. It's not my fricking antelope, Nate said under his breath, though everyone could hear him. It popped some of those glowworm things, and then after a while, it just stopped eating and walked into the middle of the quagmire and stopped. And didn't struggle when it got pulled down. And I think we should leave now and not come back until we have better protection than is used for the 2 or 3 rated planet, Zoe said. But Zoe, Narif said, I collected some glowworms today. One of them popped, and I feel perfectly fine. Then everything started growing dark, and she could hear Zoe's voice, full of pain. So much pain it made her want to cry for Zoe. And what Zoe said was, "Oh, Narif." End of chapter. And that, my friends, concludes this video.